Hey everybody, welcome back to Life Under Deborah's Palm, where today we're going to talk about the gift of discernment, sometimes called the gift of distinguishing spirits, but usually it's called the gift of discernment. Thanks for checking out my channel, and if you like it, you get something out of it, please like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, and all those things that YouTubers tell you. And now on to our regularly scheduled program. The first thing I'm going to do is what I always do. I'm going to give you the definition of distinguishing of spirits or discerning of spirits, the word discerning or distinguishing as it is shown in the concordance. And I checked them both out. Some translations will say distinguishing, some will say discern. They both mean exactly the same thing, and it basically means to be able to judge what's going on. Women seem to be more gifted in this, and I think it's kind of a mom thing. Like, we have to be able to judge in order to protect children. And it doesn't mean men don't have it, but it's the ability to just know when something's off. That's the way I look at it. Somebody says something and it seems right, but it's wrong, or they say something that's wrong, but it's actually right. And you have this way of sort of breaking that up and discerning it. It's just something kind of hits you in it. And that's kind of the best and easiest way, I think, to describe discernment. We need this gift to be able to divide the true from the false and the right from the wrong. And I'm going to read you 1 John 4:1, and he says, "Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world." False prophets, false teachers. The best way to look at this for me is, I think I'm going to go back in history. When I was a little kid, there was a man named Jim Jones. He was known for the Jonestown Massacre in Guyana, down in, I believe it was South America. And he started out seemingly okay, although from what I've read, I'm not really sure he was that okay. But he seemed to be okay, and he ended up with about 3,000 followers here in the US. And then he got really, really off, and he went into this, he called it, I think, apostolic socialism or something like that. He became a socialist communist type guy, and he controlled his people, really controlled his people. And the truth of the matter was, he was actually a drug addict, is what he became. And when things started to squeeze him here in the US, he took his people to South America. And a lot of people did not go. But what ended up happening was he built this compound, and the US went to check on him because relatives were concerned. It's just a long story, but they got there, and a congressman was killed on the tarmac, I believe, when the plane landed. And what ended up happening was Jim Jones got all 900-ish people to, as we say, drink the Kool-Aid. It was actually Flavor Aid, which is like Kool-Aid. It was laced with cyanide. 300 children died. The rest were all adults. Yeah, that's bad. And I'll give you one more example, a little closer to this time frame that some of you might remember. In the 90s, David Koresh and the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, who holed themselves up for 50-something days, and the compound burned down, and for whatever reason, and there was death and suicide and murder and all that stuff. Same thing. He was way out there. There was a lot of sexual abuse of minors. And if you think to yourself, how did they get there? Who believes this? Regular, average, normal people wouldn't believe this. Well, if you're a Christian and you're looking for a church, or maybe you're a new Christian and you're looking for a place to belong, you've got to know the Word of God. You've got to read the Bible. That's really the best thing that will just give you don't even need a gift of discernment. You just know this is what it says, and you're out in left field somewhere. And so I'm going to read this to you from Hebrews 4:12. And this is what the writer of Hebrews says about the scriptures. It says, "For the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates even to dividing soul and spirit, joint and marrow. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart." Anyone who knew their Bible would have picked up on either of these guys really quickly. In fact, anybody who really had an ounce of regular, plain old discernment would have picked up on these guys. But when you're wounded and there's a lot going on in your life, sometimes these guys are very attractive. But you need to know the word, because those things may seem obvious sometimes to us, but sometimes things aren't. I once had a person several years ago give me a prophetic word. It was very short, and it was a directional word of something I needed to do. And I kind of went, I don't know. It wasn't a bad word. It wasn't something that would have put me in some bizarre place, but it was just kind of like, it just didn't sit well with me, so I sat on it. And then one night I had a dream, and in this dream, that person was there and had given me the same word. And then another person was in the dream that gave me a different word, but I knew that word was true. It was something going on in life at the time, and I knew that word was absolutely true. And the dream ended with somebody saying to me, in the dream, I don't even remember, it was so long ago, I don't even remember who the person was, but somebody came up to me and said, "They're not both right. So which word is true?" And I went, "The other guy that spoke the word that I knew was true." He said, "Right, which means that other word is what?" And I said, it's false. It's not a true word for me." Now, this is why it says you have to judge the spirit. The person who gave me the word was speaking out of something he wanted me to do. And that it just, you know, I don't think it was intentional. I don't think it was, you know, he told me that he had actually heard it and seen it, and he may very well have. And when we get into hearing God in a couple weeks, you'll see how your soul can get in your way sometimes. And people aren't necessarily out to be vengeful or nasty, but it does happen. And so I did not go that way that person wanted me to go, because it was not a true word. But that discernment rose up in me and went, something's off, okay? That's how it operates. All of us have opinions that have formed, and they get formed in a lot of ways. Our family that we grew up in, the news media, our education system, and just our own general beliefs after we put those things together. Those things sometimes have to be dismantled, and those things can get in the way of discerning. And I know I've known a few people, as a matter of fact, that came out of a church that was basically a cult. They were very controlling. The people in this church absolutely knew their scriptures. Man, they could quote that stuff at you like nobody's business. But the people in charge had started out one way and slowly moved another way. And those scriptures were twisted. They were meant to and used to abuse the people, to control the people, to get things done that they wanted done. And I had known more than one person who had come out of there, and one was a good friend of mine, and I said, "How did you deal with this?" And she said, "I had to understand where I came from, and then I had to take those scriptures and I had to ask the Lord, what do these really mean?" And then I started to see that they didn't just mean what was, you know, kind of shoved down their throat and wrong. In some cases, blatantly wrong. In other cases, just used for somebody's own purposes. They said I had to go through these things, and I just had to ask the Lord to show me. And that is what is called the renewing of your mind. And Romans, Paul writes this, Romans 12:2. And he says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will." And so in order to grow in discernment, you're really, really going to need to understand the scriptures, and you're going to have to be willing to realize that some of your thought patterns and your belief systems, they're worldly, and they're not what God's intended. I've been there. There are things that I was like, oh yeah, I think it's totally okay to do that. It's not totally okay to do that. God does not want things done in that manner, and that's how you'll grow in that. It's a great gift to have. I think everyone's got some form of it, but there's those that's really gifted and really can pinpoint things that seem very good and find out that they're really not. So I hope that helps you out and gives you a better understanding of what it is, why we need it, and what happens when we don't use it or don't have it. And until the next time, have a blessed day.